Hi everyone, I'm Amanda and today I will be talking about the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the amount consumers, particularly college students, spend on clothing and accessories. I'm sure most of us know about the COVID-19 pandemic. However, as a refresher, COVID-19 is a contagious disease characterized by fever, cough, and fatigue. The first case of COVID-19 was first identified in Wuhan, China in December of 2019, and in March of 2020, the outbreak was officially considered a pandemic by the World Health Organization. As the virus began to spread across the United States, the government forced many businesses to close and Americans to stay home, which restricted activities such as shopping and eliminated the need for new clothes. During the pandemic, economic hardships such as unemployment and the reduction of hours caused a significant decline in consumer spending, particularly in non-essential expenses. This study will discuss the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on college-age students spending on clothing and accessories, online clothing purchases, and purchases of various types of clothing. This research can help fashion startups and businesses survive during these difficult times, as it identifies potential market areas. This study can also help the public, particularly individuals looking to invest in publicly traded clothing companies. As I previously mentioned, research has shown a sharp decline in overall spending, particularly in non-discretionary expenses resulting from the pandemic. Cobian and others in a survey conducted by the National Bureau of Economic Research showed that monthly clothing spending decreased from $220 to $126 after the pandemic hit in 2020. Additionally, others such as Doigon and Baker have examined the changes in spending in various categories, concluding that online spending on video subscription services and food delivery have increased during the pandemic. While some previous studies have acknowledged a sharp decrease in spending on clothing and accessories during the COVID-19 pandemic, this particular study analyzed the effect of COVID-19 on the clothing spending of college students and provides an in-depth analysis of how the pandemic has changed the online clothing market. To collect data for this research, a survey was sent out this month about individuals' shopping habits during the COVID-19 pandemic to 3 Cal Poly student Facebook groups: Cal Poly SLO Class of 2021, 2022, and 2024. Survey participation was completely voluntary. The survey received 48 total participants for the sample size, of which 83.3% were female and additionally 91.7% of participants were under 24 years old. Paired t-tests and one sample t-test were later conducted on the data to verify if changes in spending due to the pandemic were statistically significant. Participants were asked to self-report whether their spending on clothes increased, decreased, or stayed the same. And on the left, we can see that only 33.3% of participants cited a decrease in the total amount they spent on clothes. This amount is different from what was expected from literature. One possible reason for this difference may be that college students are not as affected by the pandemic's economic hardships. On the right, we can see that 50% of participants said they spent more money on online clothes shopping during the pandemic. From the conduction of a one sample t-test with a set comparison value of 2, which was equivalent to spending staying the same, we can see that the p-value for the change in online clothes shopping is 0.001, which is less than the alpha value of 0.05. Therefore, it can be concluded that there was a significant increase in the amount participants spent online shopping during the pandemic, with a 95% confidence, and the null hypothesis can be rejected. Later, participants were asked to self-report the amount they spent on clothes per month at 3 different time periods. In 2019, before the pandemic, from March to June of 2020, and directly following the onset of the pandemic, and currently in November 2020. There was no difference in the amount participants spent before and after the pandemic. However, there was an increase in the current spending on clothes. Using a paired t-test between the mean difference of individual spending directly after the pandemic and currently, it can be seen that this month's increase in spending is statistically significant at the 0.05 level. This could be attributed to the reopening of businesses or other unknown factors. Lastly, participants were asked about the type of clothes they purchased and how that was affected by the pandemic. From the bar graph, we can see obvious increases in casual and athletic wear purchases and decreases in semi-formal, formal, and professional wear. At the 0.05 level, the changes in all clothing categories were statistically significant except for accessories. These changes may be because more people are staying in during the pandemic and do not need fancier attire for social events. In conclusion, this study shows that companies such as Lululemon that provide online shopping for casual and athletic wear and are targeted toward a younger audience will be more successful in the current clothing market. Lastly, to gain a more comprehensive understanding of the current market, the questions on the slide must be answered. These can be likely answered by conducting interviews with the original survey participants to better understand the motivation behind their spending habits.